Yo,
What's up, dude?
how's it going, my man?
Oh, it was a crazy day today, man.
Crazy day, huh?
Crazy day.
What were you
Crazy.
do? What were you doing today that was so crazy?
Went to the beach.
Went to the beach.
Yeah, man. Went to
That
the
sounds pretty
beach.
crazy.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was good.
That does sound pretty crazy.
The little one was
Well,
a little
cool.
crazy today, man. You know?
Yeah.
Kids are. Right, Eric?
No, I don't. I don't have any kids. I got a dog, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like a kid.
I think you're on to something.
Kind of like a kid, but it's got more legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they jump a lot.
Your Ed is looking angrier than mine. I don't know.
Oh, dude,
Look
man.
Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah, there we go. He looks angrier than mine. It's weird. And then I got the Bergman up there.
The Bergman. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I got Bergmans around here somewhere. I haven't hung them up yet.
Yeah. But what's
Dude.
new, man?
Oh man, it's been a heck of a week. It's warm here finally. So I was gone last week. I was at the National Home Performance Conference. Chris and I were. Chris is still MIA. He may join us later tonight. We're not sure yet.
He's still at the conference.
I don't know where he's at. I think he might. I don't know. He might. I heard that maybe Johnny Supertech called him in for a consultation,
Yeah.
but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyways.
He wanted to learn how to do the True Flow grid, Johnny
Yeah,
Supertech.
it was raining all week last week while I was gone. The pond is overflowing. The yard is full of water, and my grass is about yay high on me.
You were saying that last time. You guys got some acreage up there.
It is deep, man. That grass is bad. I can't mow right now because the yard is too wet.
How many acres you got?
Cutting ruts. I mow about 2 acres.
Woo.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I mean, you got something up to the neck. What are you using? Like one of those like professional like
pretty sure I need a goat at this point.
Right? Dude, you could do that.
I know. I need a herd of goats.
They do that in Florida. Some dude comes onto a lot with like 20 goats.
Yeah.
Anyways, it down.
But those of you who haven't watched the show before, my name's Eric Kaiser. Sitting over there next to me, Mr. Michael Cianfrocco. Missing in action tonight, Chris Hughes. We're not sure. We're pretty sure that he might be going out and learning something from Johnny Supertech, but you never can tell.
Yeah, he might make it. Special guest tonight, maybe.
Yeah. So we do have a special guest tonight, as many people who saw the thumbnail. Oh my goodness, we're getting comments. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen for comments. Whoa, hey, Mechanical Environments in the house. Cody Brazil, Tom Leck, somebody from Facebook that I can't see who they are. Dave Johnsonola, Tom Leck, Rachel Kaiser. Oh, speaking of Rachel Kaiser, we got a special guest tonight.
Evening.
Hey.
Hello. Sheep will do less damage to shrubs. Thanks, Dave. Not sure how you know that. If that's firsthand experience, you might be short a couple of trees if you got some goats on there, huh? Pretty sure sheep will do less damage to cars also, because goats like to climb on cars.
Dude, those things are nuts. They got to go on the highest, whatever's in the property. They go on. I saw a video, one on a roof in some suburb.
Yeah, they love to climb on stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think our guest is like, why are we talking about goats and sheep right now? Did you come on here to talk about goats and sheep?
That wasn't what I thought, but hey, I'm willing to go with whatever. I mean, I'm not wearing any wool, so I think it's okay.
Can we collect some data about some goats and sheep?
We could. So obviously we have a data point that sheep do less damage than shrubs. So if we're going to do a compare and contrast analysis on how best to address the tall grass situation, apparently so far we have the shrubs not being damaged in the sheep category, and lawnmowers losing out to water.
Huh. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to segregate off part of the yard, right? And it's got to have access to similar shrubs right there. And we put the sheep in one part and the goats in the other part, and we just see what happens in the end.
And I think a mower in there could be one that you know,
Right in the middle.
With a mower, so we can mow one, goat one, and sheep one.
Yes.
So what do you call that? Data analysis or something?
So that's actually experimental design, what we just
Oh.
walked through.
Nice.
Look at that.
So when you go in, that's one of the pieces that you want to start at the initial onset is what are the parameters that you're wanting to collect data around, and how do you set up to ensure that you have an experiment that's going to start to give you the data that you would allow you to do the analysis in the end to come up with what your next step or result or things like that you want.
Even results. Yep.
Well,
Even
I
though-
mean, maybe not even results, but you want to have good results,
yeah.
right? You know, you want good results, so you got to have good data to get good results. It's kind of like a load calculation. What happens if you just use the default values that go into it on every house?
Right. Right. Yep. Yeah, not so good.
Not going to work out well, right?
No.
I mean, you're going to get a lot of very similar load calculations.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was talking to somebody about this. It was Cool Calcs. It auto defaults like Windows, and I was like, well, I mean, if you go in and you change the values to what they should be, or you could just leave it and wing it, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
garbage in, garbage out, and if you put bad data in, you're going to get bad
Yeah.
data out and draw bad conclusions, right?
Oh, that's right. It was my buddy Anthony. He does load calcs by hand. And yeah, right?
All right.
That's what I said. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
why don't you try why don't you try something basic like Cool Calcs or something, you know? And he's like, nah, I do this in 2 seconds. Don't worry about it, right? So I was like, dude, you got to run me through it. I got to see this. Right? So he runs me through it. Not too bad.
1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton, 4 ton, 5. If that, if this covers the house, you hold it up like this, and that covers the house, it's 5 ton.
Oh, right.
But if you only need this, it's 4 ton, or this, it's 3.
I like that cookie cutter thing, man, where the guy takes the picture of the house and that
Oh
one
yeah,
was awesome.
it's got that little house cut in it. If it
The
fits
cutouts, yeah.
You hold it up if it fits in there. It's how many tons it is.
But it was really cool, man, doing it by hand. I was like, everybody's got to do it at least once that way. I think Russ King was saying doing it. And, dude, we came with the same load calc. Like, both. I showed him the iPad. I go, dude, that was 2 tons on mine, 2 tons on yours.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, if what you've got works, that's great. So,
Well,
anyways,
Yeah.
so we're talking tonight about data, right? And all kinds of data. And Rachel here, I happen to live with a data expert that you've collected a lot of data, you've analyzed data, you're an expert in data security. What else?
So a phrase and terminology that's really important when we're going to talk through data here this evening, I think, is data integrity. And you'll see that used a lot in different industries, but it's actually essential no matter what your role in that is. If you're the technician in the field, you're the owner of the company, it's a concept that you're going to want to, or you're doing research in a controlled lab type of space. In any of those cases, the concept of data integrity is a crucial one that you want to start to wrap your head around. And essentially, you're looking at data integrity is about a process and the overall concept that makes sure that your data has at the basic level, has the accuracy, the completeness, the consistency, and the validity around that data, so that you not only ensure that your data is all of those pieces for the specific activity that you're doing in the moment, but there is robustness over the lifespan of that data. So data integrity is a concept that goes from generation and part of that design, like what we were talking about, through the entire life cycle of that data. And that means until that data no longer exists. Data integrity as a concept needs to be contemplated as a component for that data.
Wow, that was a big mouthful.
Oh, darn. So break it down. What does not make sense?
All right, Mike, go for it. What didn't make sense?
I got it all.
You got it
Oh,
all?
got it
okay,
all.
good.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
because
So
Eric was
no
telling me
concerns, no concerns whatsoever on data
It-
integrity.
everything's got to be up to snuff. The back of the class explanation.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
let's talk about some examples of data integrity, right? From the beginning to end. So, what about data integrity during? So you mentioned design, right? Well,
Mhm.
let's back up even further and kind of put this into steps. What are the general steps of doing of we'll talk about data collection or analyzing something. What are those general steps?
You mean where you're talking about design,
See,
collection?
yeah, yeah. What are those steps all the way through from before you start collecting the data to all the way at the end where I'm holding a piece of paper in my hand with
Yeah.
some sort
Okay,
of
so
results or something with
and then
even
life
analysis.
cycle. Okay. So essentially you start in a design or intended use of your data. So sometimes the word design is too complex. You're just looking that you want a given value. So don't think of it as design per se. You're thinking about it as that single data point generation. So it's not as much of a design, but it is what is your intended use of that data that you're going to collect, whether it's a single point or a larger collection. So that's an important first step, is to understand why are you collecting or setting up to collect whatever that data is. Where is it going to be used? What is your intent, or what can it be used for, and do those need to be taken into account? It's not a case that you have to overthink it. None of this is list every possible consideration. That is not the intent in this. It is to just start thinking about, and you build these skills and build these elements over time to be more and more robust. But you want to start off even looking at, if we go through one data point collection, why are you collecting that piece of data as the initial step? Because then you move to your actual hands-on process component where you collect that component of data. And in all these cases, you're going to want to take that concept and process of that data integrity and apply it through all of these different phases of the data lifecycle journey that we're talking through. So we're collecting the data, and then you move to, at a high level basic approach, then you move to that analysis, which is, did you have to do any extra calculations or manipulations with that collected data to get an output that is of interest? And that's why it's
Right.
absolutely essential that you start with that. What am I intending to do with that data?
Yeah. That's
So that then you can do the analysis and be ready to do that, and still ensure that you have your accuracy, your
yeah.
consistency of that. Then once you hit that analysis, and that's where we were doing the focus for tonight, but beyond that is a latter step, which is data life cycle management. So does that data need to be maintained for use at a later point? This is really crucial when you're looking at data as, say, a business owner. How long do you need or want access? And how long do you want that data to remain uncorrupted that you would be able to leverage again for other or repeat of what you had done initially? And so that's the key last step is how do you manage that life cycle.
Wow. So that's kind of, to me, when you're saying life cycle, I kind of think of like any of us keeping tax records, businesses, homeowners, whatever, right? We've got to keep those tax records for so many years in case the IRS or, whatever wants to come back and look at them, right? That would be considered a data life cycle.
All those words are going to get us flagged on YouTube.
Well, I know.
Welcome on, Chris. Welcome on. Glad you made it. Uh-oh.
He's muted. You're muted somehow. It's okay. He didn't want to talk to us. He's just going to look here.
I basically am having it out with my neighbor. Because, yeah. So I'm a little aggravated right now.
We said you were at a conference still.
We thought I heard that Johnny Supertech called you in for a consult. So
yeah,
that's right.
That's probably a better story. Maybe this is one of those times I shouldn't say the truth on the air. Nah, screw it. That's not who I am. Let's just be honest. My neighbor.
Let me see your knuckles. Let me see them.
So my neighbor is over there. He's got a party going on, and it's like this happens all the time, man. It's getting worse. And there's people in the driveway, and they play music that's extremely vulgar. And I got 3 little kids.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like you can't have that. So I just walked over there and said, "Kill it. You got to stop." I did it in a nice way, but I could tell like one dude's walking away, and he's like talking, and I had to pull the "Excuse me." Did I not get that all the way? Would you like to repeat it? Like, dude, I don't know. Blood's boiling, bro. It's like taking it back to high school days. I'm ready. I don't know.
You did the Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, dude. It's aggravating, bro.
Did you get the music turned off?
What?
Did you get the music turned off?
Yeah.
Well, so you accomplished your goal.
Oh,
yeah, but who knows where it's going to go from here?
There you go. Not have to worry about that.
Like, is it going to get out of control? Is it not? I mean, I don't know, man.
Just say thanks. Just say thank you and walk away.
I did. I was like, yeah, man, thanks. Like, you got to shut it down. Like, I'm sorry, but you just got to shut it down.
Yeah. We're having a good time.
Yeah. So I get it. So anyway, that's why I was late, man. I had to go have a dispute.
That's all right, man. That's all right. We're just talking about data integrity.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I'm taken away from the show, bro. Like,
which is tough. I learned from Eric that he takes his data very seriously, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I tried that experiment,
Well, and we're going to talk about that too, because that's that's kind of important. Some important pieces we can learn from here, right? And I've got to say, Rachel's taught me a lot about data gathering, building this stuff, having intention with the data that I'm collecting, because I can remember going into certain situations in a system where like I would just start grabbing numbers everywhere, right? And I'm grabbing numbers and I'm going, well, this is here and this is here, but I didn't have a process.
Right.
I didn't have intention grabbing that data. I was just grabbing numbers.
You're just scooping numbers
and then trying to figure out what meant. But if I had walked in there and I said, okay, logically look at it. I want to grab this data, and then I'm going to look at them, and that's going to drive my next decision.
That's what happened to me. I got in there and I'm like, I'm start juggling stuff.
Yeah.
Start freaking out. And I'm like, well, I stopped getting, I didn't take time to breathe.
Well, in Florida, it's hard enough to breathe anyway, isn't it? We all got that air down there that's like
my tablet
pea soup.
So my tablet freaking burned up.
I may be coming way in on the back end of this conversation. I don't know if y'all had this talk or not, but if we're talking about data integrity, did y'all cover like the inside of the house temperature and like trying to look at capacity?
We didn't even get into it at all.
We're just talking about data in general. We're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, we haven't gone to any specifics in relation to what types of data you would be collecting in your real world scenarios. We were only at definitions and process flow.
Yeah, we're at like a TED talk here. Another 3 hours.
So I
No,
wanna,
no, TED Talks are not that long.
Oh, that's right. That is right. I'm real wrong on that one. It's like a half an hour.
They're
No,
only
you
like
get 7 minutes now.
so have
shoo.
y'all ever had the conversation about capacity with since I've been on the tech support side of TEC, especially with the integration with MeasureQuick, with the TrueFlow and MeasureQuick, right? This has come up: capacity, airflow, right? Like when you get if you get what am I thinking of? Temperature, relative humidity, right? That's not you have to quantify that measurement, right? That's just a state of play. Like then the airflow tied to those measurements makes it a quantifiable measurement, right? Which gives you capacity. But if the house temperature is changing, right, capacity is changing. And I have dealt with that quite a bit to have those conversations. I don't know. That's an interesting concept.
It's big. That's in the charts. So the
Is quantifiable the right word for that? I don't know if
might
that's
have just
quite
made
the
it,
right
but I
term.
like it. Well, I think it's lost on a lot of people in the trades. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I've probably been there myself at some point. And it's, what I'm saying? Like if it is, it should be known, right? And we should talk about it.
Well, I mean, to quantify something is to be able to measure it, right? Am I missing that distinction?
Well, measure it as a whole, right? So like if you want to know capacity, you want to know the whole of the measurement. And
Okay,
if you
so
want to take temperature, relative humidity, you can say this air conditioner is producing a good supply temp, but you can't say this air conditioner is producing a good capacity based on just the supply temp. You have to quantify it. Means you have to look at the whole. You have to look at how
Yeah.
much air at this temperature is.
so
that brings up a good question. Like if you're checking a unit's BTUs, you should be doing it at normal.
so
rated
that goes
temp.
back to what we were just talking about. Okay. It's
Yeah.
collecting, it's knowing what you're trying to quantify.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You have to know what the data is before you ever go into collecting data. You've got to know what you're trying to do with it in order to collect the correct data to get to quantify what you want to get to. And that, because you actually have to calculate that capacity based on multiple data points.
I think we should bring the audience in what we're like kind of beating around the bush with.
Well, I want to get to that, but that's where I wanted Rachel to kind of help this. And this is not just about this one piece. Like it's larger. It's all about collecting data larger. We can do this with any kind of data. It's not just airflow. It's not just capacity. Right. Maybe I'm doing this on heating. Maybe I want to do, maybe I want to make sure my combustion is proper. Maybe, there's all kinds of different pieces of data that we can collect from an HVAC system. Maybe I'm looking for random dropouts in voltage. Who knows what I'm looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go in, if I'm going in and I get the report that randomly the system shuts off on its own, the first thing I'm probably not going to go to airflow first.
Right.
I'm going to look for something else. So that's where I'm trying to talk about data in general as a concept rather than, very specific things like we're getting down into the weeds.
Hey man, I just took us down a rabbit hole.
Oh, you did.
And I'm not going to say it.
We literally, before you got on, we're talking about weeds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We got in the weeds.
Yeah.
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 Or
Like the weeds in my yard are about yay high right now. And yay high for those of you on the audio podcast. Remember, we got an audio podcast, so we got to tell everybody and describe what we're talking about. I'm pointing to my shoulder, and I'm pretty tall, and the friggin' grass in my yard is like close to my shoulder.
About here, like we've already had our show on weed.
Yeah, that was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah, it was. All right, sorry. Keep going, Eric.
So, So we were talking about this whole process, like from beginning to end, where you start out with a concept and you end up with a completed report being delivered to yourself, being delivered to the equipment owner, however that may be. Or going into a larger data, going into a larger package. So I think, Rachel, you were on like collection, if I remember right. We were talking about data collection, or where were we at in that
Well,
process?
I had gone through what I sort of see as the four main steps of whether you're looking at uh, that design or intended use of the data. So why are you collecting what you're collecting?
Mm-hmm.
The actual data collection. Then you have the data analysis when we're looking at four big buckets, and then the lifetime storage of how is that going to be accessible in the future.
And what parts of it are going to be accessible? Are you going to have all the raw data accessible? Are you just going to have the analysis accessible? How's that going to be managed long term?
Correct. So those are the four big buckets, and then you can delve and can get very complicated for each one of those four main buckets. When you're looking at your data and what you want to be able to do and how you ensure that you maintain data integrity across those four buckets is all about a combination of risk and intended use.
So let's define data integrity a little bit more, because this is a term that is popping up more and more. I'm hearing it more and more. It's been entering into the HVAC world, and it's entering just in general more and more into our world with companies losing, and I'm holding up air quotes here, losing data or missing their data in some places. Like suddenly it's just poof, gone.
No kidding.
Or as we've seen at times in different places, like random numbers just pop up that make things look quote unquote good. How does all that relate to what is data integrity? Because data integrity flows across all of those four major buckets you just mentioned, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So that's the key, is data integrity applies to each one of those buckets. And if we're looking at what does data integrity give us, like I said, when you put the construct of data integrity across those buckets, that's how you know you're getting your accuracy, your consistency, completeness, and validity of the data as it moves through those buckets. What kind of in connection to what you were mentioning, Eric, when you're looking at cases where the data went missing, there's nefarious ways that a lack of data integrity allows corruption when it is intentional, and sometimes a lack of data integrity can allow you to know when there was unintentional uh, manipulation of data. Say that can be as simple as if you collected a piece of data in the field and then you have a form you have to manually enter. It's very easy to just switch two numbers as you're typing them into that form. Without a super robust data integrity approach, that number flip in your report that you've manually entered is manipulation of the data. Now, did you intend to corrupt it? No, but you are not able to say where or what happened if that became your record of what was collected in that space. So you have to know that there is a risk that that can happen because you don't have robust data integrity if you put a lot of manual processes in place. Does that start to go at it, or did I dive too much in the weeds?
It's also good to have third-party testers. Is that is that involved with that?
Well, it depends. So, like in the field, you're not going to send out multiple techs to do the same collection on a system.
Okay.
I mean, that's just not a feasible state to be.
Yeah.
We already don't have enough text to do the work as
Yeah.
it is. But what you want to do is you want to understand what the process of the data flow that you have established and make sure that the technicians all know what the expectations are so that you, say, as the business owner or as the lead techs, you understand where those risks come into those buckets
Yep.
for your data, because it's not a case that you're going to fix every spot that you can
Right.
intentionally or unintentionally
So like
manipulate the data.
probe placement was, I remember, was big. Jim Bergman brought that up. If we put the cold side probe too close to the A coil near the air handler, I think we were getting a little extra temp drop. So he was saying the closest short branch run was the best.
Yeah, because sometimes you can get cold spots, or you get like the supply side probe, if it's too close to that coil, can get radiant cooling.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Like reflective or radiant. It was wild. I was like,
It's radiant cooling, so it's the same. It's the reverse of what happens when you walk out in the sun, right?
okay.
Because the sun's hotter than you, so it's radiating heat towards you. Well,
So
if you're standing next to a cold body, whatever that is,
like a
you're
cold
radiating
window?
heat towards. Yeah, if you're standing next to a
You
cold
could
window,
feel it
you're
when you turn your back to it. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
you're
weird
radiating heat towards that cold window. Chris is like,
I'm raising my hand because I would debate that. I have tested that theory, and I have took a supply probe and kind of ran out the data points from right after the A coil, 4 foot down in the plenum right after the A coil, and the first supply duct, the medium supply duct run, the furthest supply duct run. And when I got about 3 feet away from the coil, that was like a true memeasurement.
yeah,
I didn't
Oh,
have-
really? So you're saying go close?
If I was no, I'm saying when I got
three
when I
feet or farther.
when I got
Okay.
further than 3 feet away from the A coil, even now this is a one-time case study, but when I got over 3 feet away from the A coil, even though I was in line of sight, I wasn't getting the radiant cooling effect, which means like
Okay.
supply drop. My closest supply drop and my 3 feet away from the measurement in the plenum were reading like about the same.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
That
Yeah.
one
So-
scenario.
So yeah, and that's probably fairly accurate from everything that I've heard.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because your temperature difference isn't great. So we'll take the sun, for example. How many millions of miles or thousands, millions of miles does it come before it gets to us? Right.
Right.
That speaks to the temperature of that sun and the intensity with which it has. But that coil is not much colder than the air that's flowing over that probe. So once you get to that 3 to 4 feet or more away distance, the radiant cooling effect is not going to have as much. It's just like what you mentioned, Mike, that cold window. If you're a foot away from that cold window, what's it feel like?
It's real chilly. Yeah. Single.
But
pane.
if you move 3, 4, 5 feet away from that cold window,
yeah, you could barely feel it.
exactly.
So all of those are really all this conversation is fitting right into a critical piece when you're bringing data integrity into that data collection bucket when we're looking at this as an overall data process, because that collection of that data and how you do it is absolutely essential to start how you have that robust, accurate, consistent data. So if you if your intent is to have your output about how the system is operating, but you choose different locations, you can impact. And that's where it becomes a risk-based analysis that you have to do quickly. We're not talking about things that take a long time. It's what's my risk tolerance and things in these specific examples.
So fun fact, and I had it on the tip of my tongue, but I just had to Google it to confirm. It takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds. You know, from the light to get from the sun to the earth.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, that's cool.
So we're getting 8 minute and 20-second old light is what you're saying.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
stale.
cool. But then there's the whole like, how much cooler is it, right? Because it had to travel that far. You know what I'm saying?
How much?
I don't know. This is where it gets weird because I'm not super intelligent on this category, but there's different types of heat, right? And that all plays a different role in the light band. And so some people I've heard say like light doesn't necessarily travel in waves, and then other books are like, our physicists might say, yeah, it does travel in waves. And there's this whole debate. So it's I'm not really sure. That'd be an interesting read. Rachel's over here staring at me like she knows the answer, and she does. So Rachel, so the question is, Rachel, does the heat from the sun lose its
You're talking about the energy. So
yes, right. Does it
Energy.
lose energy in the travel of 8 minutes?
That would be an energy intensity, right? Am I thinking about that right?
I think it would be total energy.
They have this equation on their refrigerator. You know that, right?
Yeah.
we do not. We have nothing on our refrigerator.
It's stainless. Nothing sticks to the front of it. Okay, not magnets anyhow.
Yeah. Sorry, we don't have. Well, I mean, water droplets.
Heat loss is 0.02 from the sun to the air.
Oh, because I mean I don't know off the top of my head. I do not know the calculation piece for the energy loss over the distance, but you're looking at typically like when we do experiments on Earth, how you lose energy through a system is that it runs into other molecules. Well, that's the win, is that there's a whole lot less molecules between the sun and the Earth. And so when you start to lose the majority of the energy is when it hits our atmosphere that is full of molecules.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of
And
stuff.
so
in the
that's
atmosphere.
why that's what comes in when you look at the environmental science at a super high level of the reason why the ozone layer is so important, because it absorbs large amounts of the very damaging energy that the sun is sending our way. So as soon as it is gone, now all of that is coming all the way to the actual land surfaces or water surfaces where we reside. And so we see and feel that impact in a whole way that we previously didn't, because our atmosphere was absorbing that energy for us. So when you start to delineate that as heat, that's when it gets a little more challenging as to, you can go to subatomic particle level versus what we think of typically in a common language as what heat is. And so then that starts to differentiate, because how those subatomic particles and where they lose momentum and things differs versus when we look at the gross product that we would typically talk about in a everyday kind of conversation.
We're really going down Star Trek now.
We are, but
Oh, you guys started it.
As you were telling me that, Rachel, you know what I envisioned, and like you probably just connect the dot for me. You know how like when you watch a movie and they have the astronauts and they go to space and they put their shields down and they had like this bronze looking film over their mask?
Yeah, it's cool.
That's got to be because they're in space, and
It is. That is absolutely essential, or they would not be able to see.
Yeah.
It's actually think about, we just had the
It's full
eclipse
spectrum.
recently, and the whole piece is you need to have the special glasses to look up there. Well, that's with that light still filtering through Earth's atmosphere to get to us, and it will still completely destroy our eyes if we were to look at it. As soon as those astronauts go into space, you have none of the atmosphere to stop that.
Yeah.
And so that
Dude, you get cooked
coloration
up there.
on the shield is there so that they do not lose their sight and can still see.
Dude, they gotta cover the whole ship with reflective, like almost like lead, because the radiation from all the gamma rays and the sun, it'll cook you.
I know we're going down a rabbit hole, but this is fun. But I was just thinking about like how we're trying to get to Mars and let's live on Mars. But Mars has like an atmosphere that's like super, super thin. It's like 1/1000th of our atmosphere, right? So like the sun, well, that also plays with distance from the sun. But if we're
Bro,
traveling,
have you ever heard of the Van Allen belt?
hold on, but hear me out. Like the sun is gonna bake your butt on Mars, which means like everybody on Mars is gonna have to be like protected all the time. Like that's gonna be life on Mars.
You will get a suntan on Mars.
Yeah.
right now.
This
Walk outside,
Mars.
Everybody's Irish on Mars.
I'm just picturing the blue sunscreen from RoboCop now. So it's all your guys' fault.
All right, back on track.
All right.
All right. So let's, we kind of talked a bit about data collection and, and intent and all this stuff. Let's talk about how we got to this point.
Oh, yeah.
Because I blame Mike for this.
I was going to blame the music, but.
Well, we got
Alright.
the group text and we're
Yeah,
trying to
so-
figure out
so-
what to do for the show. And I was like,
Mike and Chris and I have a group text going on that we bounce ideas back and forth. And Mike's like, hey, what if we look at my system and measure the capacity, right? And then take some refrigerant out and measure the capacity again.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah,
talked
'cause-
about it, and there was stuff flying all over. And I had an idea, and I immediately went to the design phase. Like, okay, how do we design a test to get some good data out of this? And what did you do, Mike?
oh, I just ran outside and took some refrigerant out.
Now,
I was,
you
but-
did measure it
But he left the screen door open, which is really important to say.
because that way you get a more consistent indoor temperature. Yeah.
and it was close to design temp too, which was nice. I got lucky that day
Take
because the outdoor temp was consistently, it was like 75, 76. So,
all right. So here's the data. Right?
Oh,
So
Oh,
look at that.
We
All right.
did that?
so I was just saying that,
Yeah.
usually I see a system a pound or two low, like every other technician out there, right? So I figure, let's see if
Right.
it makes a difference.
Well, and it does, but one
How
of the
much?
one of the really important things that I was pointing out to you in this, right, was that we really want to look at that as a percentage of total charge.
Right.
Because if we've got a system, say, that holds 15, 20, 30, 40 pounds,
Yeah.
a pound or two gets to be a lower percentage.
So like if this was a
bigger the
microchannel
system.
coil, that would be huge.
That would be a large, because how much refrigerant does, say, what size is your system?
3.5.
It's
3.5
oversized.
ton.
It's
It-
way oversized. Low count
guarantee
2.5.
I guarantee it's oversized. It's
Oversized.
Florida. Everything's oversized.
Everything's oversized.
It's what they do. But so if you had a 3.5 ton, now how much refrigerant does your system hold? I think you said 208 ounces.
Yeah, I think that's it. Man, you got good memory.
208 ounces plus it's a 30-footish line set.
Yeah.
So I think I calculated that out to like 217 ounces, if I remember correctly.
Sounds
Right.
sounds good.
So if you've got 217 ounces and you pulled out 2 pounds, I think at the end of your testing.
At the end, yeah.
What was what you ended up with and what we've got the data here from. So that was
So-
roughly about 15-ish% of
So
your total
14
charge.
pounds total. What the heck does that equate to?
I think it was what did I
Divided by
say?
16, 13. So with the line set, maybe 14 pounds.
How long was this line set? I was just curious. I missed that part.
It's about,
About
30.
30 foot.
30.
30 feet? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean you're about 13 and a half pounds in there.
Okay.
So you pulled out 2, which it comes out to, I think I calculated that out to like 15%,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And you had a measurable capacity loss in that.
Yeah, it started tweaking out at 1.5 pounds. I was like, all right.
yeah.
Like any technician would see a problem. Well,
So let's take a look at this. We'll take a
80%.
look at the data. Mike did Mike
Before
opened
you
up and-
get before you get into the data, can you guys set up why you had Mike do this test?
because it
So-
was Saturday and he wanted to do it. This was his idea.
We were looking for some show material.
All right.
Well,
So
but
that's what. So like that goes back to those buckets I was going over. So
No,
why
I'm
did you go
sorry.
to collect the data? And
So-
if it was for the show, then that's a big important piece.
No, it's not. No, I apologize. It's not just that. It's because I was talking in a group text, and we were talking about testing stuff, and I started doing subcool when I was young in the trade, and I got a service manager. He accused me of stealing refrigerant because he taught me how to do subcool. So I was like, dude, I'm not stealing refrigerant. You taught me how to do subcool. I got the HVAC guide from Fieldpiece. And every unit was a pound low. It was like every stinking unit, pound, 2 pounds. So I go, what am I doing for the customer when I was, doing call after call? Does it really matter? What's the BTUs? And so it started to, I was like, well, what does 1 or 2 pounds really mean to a homeowner? So I thought that would be a good show.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go you one better, Mike. I was doing the same thing when I started doing maintenance.
Okay.
I'm coming up on, half the systems I'm running up on that we're doing maintenance every year.
That's kind of where I was at. I was just like a maintenance guy. Yeah.
Right. So I'm doing maintenance every year on this stuff. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm coming up, half pound and a half low on every, I'm like, holy crap. All these systems have leaks.
So you too. It's like a mirror.
Why was every one of those systems low?
So guys are charging the unit when it's 85 degrees in the house. I'm speculating.
Oh,
What do you think?
I know why.
What do you got?
Every one of those systems was tight.
Short
Because
line
we
set?
were sticking our gauges on there every year over and over and over again.
No way.
And
Really?
pulling out, 4 or 5 ounces at a time every time we took our gauges off and on.
Holy smokes.
And after you do that for 5, 6, 8, 10 years, suddenly you're a couple pounds low.
How many? Damn, I'm going to go see how many ounces are in like a, like the ones they start you off with. They're like 10 foot.
It's like
I think it's 2 or 3 ounces in a 4 foot hose.
Okay. So 16 ounces in a pound, baby. Wow.
So
That
if
ain't
you do that every single year the same way, and
Yep.
you're letting that refrigerant off that hose every single year, you're going to end up a pound or 2 low.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then you're going to notice it. You're going to start to notice that in your subcooling after a little bit. It's not going to show up right away. It's going to take several years. And then you're going, hey, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Yeah, and your
Right?
average homeowner will not notice
They
a
wouldn't know
pound
a
or
thing.
two.
No,
Yeah.
probably not. Because especially if you have an oversized system in your house.
Oh,
Well,
man.
I think it all depends. It depends on the duct. I mean, we're getting in the weeds, but it depends on the duct system. If the unit's starving to move air and it has low air
Don't bring the
flow,
goats in here again.
then they're probably not going to notice because it's still going to almost freezing up, and they may not see that issue. Slightly oversized, almost freezing up, but not freezing up. Great dehumidifier.
But
Yeah.
if you just remove a little bit of refrigerant, a pound or 2, or we'll say if we remove 15%, let's look at this data and see if it changed.
All right.
See
Okay.
what changed. Okay. So
Let's go to the
Here's-
whiteboard.
here's our test in data. All right. So I just dropped all this in PowerPoint. Mikey, thanks for doing all the screenshots here, right?
He was kind of mad
He
at
paid
that.
he paid for these. Somebody paid for these. Man, that is not very clear, is it? I don't know why that's not coming across clear, because it's clear as a bell in my PowerPoint. But
Not
anyways,
too bad.
Clear
Not-
for me.
Not too
Could-
bad.
could be better, I think. But anyways, so we're running you're on an R22 system. How old is your condensing unit anyhow?
I was about to say Mike's
I don't want the guys in a group to know. I'm ashamed.
he's all playing around with his R22 like he don't care how much it costs.
I'm
Dude,
blushing over here.
This is I think this is the case of the cobbler's kids or something like
I
that, right?
lost a pound of gold R22 for this experiment. So
Yeah.
you
Lost
guys-
it.
Well, it's
Didn't
in
you
my
ever-
recovery tank. I can only squeeze a pound back in from the recovery tank.
Yeah.
I had to get a
Recovery.
1970s jug and top it off. Dude, it's sitting by the condenser right
Okay.
now.
So, this was your test in data. All right.
Yep.
So suction line, you're still in the green, running about 50 degrees there. You got about 9 degrees of superheat, little under by 8.5 degrees of subcooling. Liquid line's about 87 degrees. What was your,
She-
we'll see what all the other
She's
stuff
a
here is,
beauty.
right?
Yeah.
Running pretty good here. You're running about
Tight on
Fort-
arrows up top.
41 degree coil. That's pretty good. 95 degree coil, not too shabby.
Got a green flag.
A green
Got
flag.
the green flag from Jim.
Going
Bergman.
race. We're going racing, boys.
Whoa, smoking the tires on this one.
How does that go? Boogity, 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 or something like that, right?
Not me. I'm not saying that.
Okay. Anyways, so we'll walk through this. Looks like you're running. So estimated 329 per ton. Now he did a true flow report, but for some reason your true flow report didn't pull in to Measure Quick. I don't know.
Yeah, I apologize about that because I was going through getting at everything. I was doing the step by step through the through Measure Quick. So I didn't know when to. You know what I did? I had the DG8 hooked up for my my static, so it wasn't pulling up the true flow grid. So I pulled off the DG8.
Yeah.
I bet I know a guy that can help.
So let's
I phoned a friend.
Let's conquer that so people know if they're listening, they're using this. If you're using the DG8 as a streaming tool, okay,
Right.
that's one tool. That's one tool hookup. We do allow that gauge to hook up as a streaming tool, but when you're using the TrueFlow, you're doing what's called app sharing and not app streaming. When you're connected to the DG8 only, you're app streaming. Okay, your live data, boom, boom, boom. If you disconnect from the DG8, you can connect to the TrueFlow kit. And when you connect to it in the toolbox, it will pop up as an option under the home button screen. And there will be a little button that says use TrueFlow. When you press that button, you're going into what's called app sharing mode, which means basically Measure Quick pauses. Then you go to the TrueFlow app and you run out the process of capturing flow.
Yep.
Then it returns you back to Measure Quick. Measure Quick becomes unlocked back to active data. But our airflow measurement is a stagnant measurement that is brought back over. That is app sharing.
Little snapshot.
There you go.
Chris bringing the knowledge right here.
Boom.
I had to work that in, man.
And
Nice.
I
So
think the true flow grid was like 1200, right, Chris?
look, we'll look at that. I've got that. I've actually got that in here.
Oh, on the data.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're pushing out what 42,000
42,000.
there. 20 to man. Your split is awesome.
Isn't that crazy,
0.7
bro?
SHR.
Yeah, it's good sensible heat ratio.
Bro,
Yeah.
19 years old, this baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why they wring that humidity out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not in low speed. I got a variable speed fan that drops down.
Yeah. So there's your you know, temperatures, everything, dry bulb, wet bulb, superheat, subcooling. I think well, maybe that was a doubled up. Anyways, wait a minute.
I got the time stamps too, so we can always look at that. Yeah, 345.
Somewhere in here I've got TrueFlow. I thought I had it after the first set, but maybe
It's
I've
at
got
the
it at
end.
the end.
Yeah.
I don't know where I have it in my slides. So this was test out. Okay. This was after you took 2 pounds out. So again, we're still running that 41, 40 and a half. So we dropped a half a degree on the coil. I'm going to say that's probably due to indoor return air temperature, probably dropping a little bit, but we can look at that.
Yeah, time.
Might be interesting to put these side by side at some point and just really compare them side by side. I may have to do that at some point in time.
That's a good tool for analysis when you
Yeah.
have the in and out that you have in this kind of testing scenario. Is part of your analysis is often how to visualize it. So that's a key piece.
Yeah. So, you got your nice red flag up here. Your superheat looks like it's gone up, but your subcooling's really gone down.
Yeah.
How many people do you think would walk away from that house with a 50-degree suction line temp?
Right?
Well, I'd say probably a lot of them, especially when if everybody was just looking at pressures, and this is going to be one of my big arguments right here of why we can't just look at pressures.
All the guys in my area like, oh, pressures look good.
Right?
Yep. Beer can
Because you are 2 pounds low, and those pressures everybody would say is okay.
Yeah, it didn't really budge, did it? From the first one? Yeah,
So this was
183 over 70.
70, 183, and 69 and 181.
Yeah, pretty
We
much.
got to go to lunch, bro. Let's go to lunch.
You will never see that change on a set of analog gauges ever.
Yeah. Yeah, really. My old ones. Phew.
So there we were. Our superheat changed a degree. Our subcooling changed, quite a bit,
Yeah, that's where I noticed the big. I'm like, oh, here we got something. As
right?
soon as we hit 1.5 pounds, I was like, wow, that subcool took a
So
dive.
that liquid line temperature went 86 to 91.
Oh, it went up. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
your liquid line temperature went up. That's where your subcooling reduced.
Look at that. Yeah.
So if somebody had been doing temperature only diagnostics on this or a non-invasive test, they would have found this problem. You will not find this problem with only gauges. This was
wow.
my experience. So remember we talked about
So
that
non-invasive, yeah, would be great.
you would have found this problem.
Yeah, 91. Look at that. That's way off the chart.
Okay. So
And mind you, I haven't looked at this data, even though I pulled it.
So after that whole thing of finding all these units low and my boss going, hey, why are you putting so much refrigerant in everybody's units? You're putting refrigerant in everything. Why? I said, because they're low. These need to be peaked out to subcooling. This is part of the I'm doing my checks. I'm gathering that data. I'm doing all this stuff. Here's my supporting. And that's when we came up, we're like, oh, okay, we're losing this refrigerant.
Yeah.
So I switched, and this was when I learned about non-invasive testing and temperature-only testing of systems. I stopped putting my gauges on every year, and I started finding more problems.
Yeah, or the the field piece ones.
No, so this was back in like the late 2000s. We didn't have anything.
Nothing was invented,
but
unless you're using stubbies.
But even so, there's non-invasive stuff built into MeasureQuick.
Yes,
you can do non-invasive and not put any pressure gauges on.
Yeah, just circle on that little top left house right there for the people watching.
There you go. Okay.
All you gotta do is click on that. Go to non-invasive.
There's our supplies, returns. Hang on. So our return was 72.9, return 72.2.
Hey, I told you it was
we
tight.
dropped 0.7 of a degree.
What about wet bulb? What was the difference? I'm just trying to.
59.3 was test in, and 58.8.
Okay.
So
okay.
Half a degree wet bulb, not a ton.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit lower, but not a ton. And that would totally account for the lower pressure.
Mm-hmm.
The slightly lower suction pressure. Okay. So
I tried to keep it ethical. All right.
Temp split, airflow, it's estimating 1100. When we get to the true flow grid, we'll see the real number here. Your enthalpy split is high, which tells me that you're running a low airflow on this. Lower than your 400 CFM per ton.
Yeah, we're I got her set up for a while at 350 on high and like 280 for like low speed dehumidification.
Yeah. So, and here's what we went down to for capacity. So we had.
This is what I wanted to get to was capacity.
I have a question. Where's your air handler, Mike? Is it inside the conditioned space or outside the conditioned space?
Inside in a closet, kind of central in the house.
Okay.
It's Florida. They at least put the air handlers in conditioned space. They just leave the ducts outside conditioned space. Unlike y'all in Louisiana who just puts everything out.
Oh, and 40 CFM of duck leakage.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is all supply driven has to be, because you're telling me you have a mechanical closet and it's tightly sealed, which means if there's any leakage, it's all in conditions.
There's a half a bucket of Pookie in there. Yeah.
So, we lost about 4,000 CFM or 4,000 BTUs per hour by taking 15% out. Now, if this system is oversized, not a big deal, probably.
Mm-hmm.
3.5 ton, right? No,
3.5, 42,000.
Yeah. So that's what, about 10% of capacity loss. If I'm doing my math correctly.
I can't do math. That's why I use MeasureQuick.
What?
So it was 42,000 and we lost 4,000. It's going to be 10-ish, maybe 9% capacity loss.
39.
So
I'm looking at Rachel.
What? Yeah. She equated that in her head.
Yeah.
Beep boop, beep boop.
I'm not here for the math.
9.5%. So roughly 9.5, 10% capacity loss.
So
Okay.
10% capacity. Okay.
By taking out 15%. Now here's your actual measurement, right? We're at 357 per ton. So
Nice.
you're down at that 350, which is why your enthalpy drop is elevated a little bit, right?
Okay.
You're at 1250 CFM
1250. Okay.
measured on the true float. All right.
Yeah, it's looking good.
So
the filter's a little dirty, 0.6. I think I measured it with the DG8 brand new. It was like 0.58, I think. And it's been in there for about 8 months.
Man, we're gonna have to get you a new filter.
Yeah, I need a new filter.
So I mean, I think.
So what do you guys think?
We got some data out of it. I would love to see this go farther. I would love to see this, maybe even take it down to like 25% or 30% and see what that is, and then kind of be able to graph that out. My ideal situation would be to take out like 5% at a time and see where it really starts to fall off. Because when you lose all your subcooling, that's when that capacity is going to take a nosedive.
Yeah.
But how much percentage of the total charge does that take to hit?
I think
go ahead.
I'm thinking this should be Michael giving a class at the symposium next year with this data. That's what I see happening. What do you think, Michael?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Eric,
let me know in the comments.
I mean, yeah. Who wants to see Cianfrocco present at Brian Orr Symposium on removing a little bit of charge all the way down and see how the system responds?
I got some ideas, and I think the three of us are going to have a talk about data. So and collecting some more data. But
can I bring a drink with me for the nerves?
There you go.